Okay, welcome to another edition of Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight. You follow me, I'll follow you back. And I'm joined tonight by my two esteemed colleagues, Peter Blake, host of the Sports Web on Saturdays. Peter, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great, buddy. How you doing? Football season never ends down here in Tampa Bay. And, of course, I'm the host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 5, the Sports Web. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. Of course, you can listen at tantalknetwork.com. You can find me on Facebook at Peter H. Blake and also on Twitter at pblake1003. Glad to be a part of this.
All right. And the man that he needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway, Mr. Buzz himself. Rick Brown, how you doing tonight, my friend?
What's up, my buddy? Hey, look, you can find me on Pete's show every now and then on Saturdays.
Every week.
4:06 Eastern Standard Time. But no, find me on Twitter at RickBrown91. Also, you can read my work at fanragsports.com. Fanragsports.com. Click on NFL. I could be writing about the Bucs. I could be writing about the Falcons. I could be writing about any team in the NFL because that's what I do. I'm the NFL guy. So, hey, follow me at RickBrown91 on Twitter and FanRagSports.com.
All right. So,
and he's been on fire, too.
Yeah, there you go, man.
See, don't bring that up, man. Come on, man. Go ahead. Leave that alone.
So, hey, man, we're still football season. A lot of football things are going on. A big announcement for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, bringing Mike Smith back and signing him. That was a huge move in trending this team upwards and keeping that momentum going into the new season. And I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. I've been listening to a lot of sports radio in San Diego, and based on what I've understood from one side, we haven't heard from the owner except for through his press agent, but it sounds like the city of San Diego really tried to get that deal done to keep the Chargers in San Diego. And I am going somewhere with this, by the way. And it just seems like over the past couple of years, the Chargers ownership has been doing everything they can to, in a sense, sabotage this. And they've shown examples, and it's really interesting. You don't really hear about it on our end. We follow the Bucs, or you may follow the NFC East, but you really don't get to hear about the politics and all the things that go on. They kind of insinuated that Roger Goodell is working with the owner to get the San Diego Chargers to Los Angeles. And, unfortunately, that's what happened. And I say this for the fans, because it's a shame that you have a organization that's been in place for over 50 years and they just up and move. They make that big money grab. And based on everything that I've read in Los Angeles, they don't want them. They don't want the Chargers there. I mean, it's bad enough to have the Rams there. And then you've got two teams that is like not trending upward. And on top of that, you see some of the shady moves that the owners have done, or the management has done to some of these players, like Eric Weddle, and there's a laundry list, and they talked about that as well. Now I'm wondering if this move to Los Angeles had anything to do with Mike Smith withdrawing his name from consideration.
No, I don't think so. It probably had to do with Meryl Streep not wanting football or MMA. If you listen to her speech the other night at the Golden Globes, of course LA doesn't want football. When they had football there, they didn't have a lot of fan support. All they care about is entertainment, and both of those teams right now, the aforementioned Chargers, for stealing that logo from the Tampa Bay Lightning. We appreciate that. And the LA Rams, not very entertaining at all, so I don't know how long it lasts. But, of course, Roger Goodell is working, trying to put a team in the number 2 market and a city that really doesn't care about football. I don't think it's a shame for San Diego. It's a shame for the fans out there. And I got another name for the NFL. It's a no fan league because they don't care about what the fans think. It's all about the mucho dinero. I'll give you a little Johnny Manziel there. That's what it's about. Exactly. Johnny Marijuana, as we call him, as the boys called him on the boat last Monday, which we'll get to that in a minute or a couple segments. You know me. The Mike Smith thing, it makes lots of sense for the Buccaneers. It's a great move. You keep the continuity there with the defense. They improved last year. Probably one of the most important signings in free agency to get him under contract, and now you can move forward with the defensive game plan. You don't have to replace him with an in-house guy and Jay Hayes or the linebacker coach. So great job by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because Mike Smith has won everywhere that he's been in the NFL. He's done a great job with this defense. You had to keep him in here because you want to keep that continuity with this team.
And I'll jump in here. Let's remember about Roger Goodell. He is paid by the owners. I mean, he works for the owners. So even though he's commissioner of the NFL, but it's the owners who grease his palms. So of course he's going to do whatever he can for them. Number one. The Mike Smith deal, no, it has nothing to do with San Diego. I agree with Spider when he said that it's a money thing for the San Diego owner. You know, it is a shame, but that's just the way it is. And I mean, Al Davis used to do it all the time back in the day, and they had the L.A. Rams and the Los Angeles Raiders for a good little while there. So yeah, it seems that way. So it's a shame.
One thing that really is a shame about the fan base in Los Angeles. When the team isn't winning, they're not going to the games. That's just how they are. They don't want to see a losing product out there. They're not going to waste their money on a losing product.
Well, they have other things to do.
Sure.
They have they have other things. Just like the people in Florida.
Yeah. And I mean, a good example is when the decline of the Lakers and the resurgence of the LA Clippers.
Easy.
And the resurgence of the LA Clippers. I'm just giving this as an example. You saw the change in climate when LA started losing and the Clippers started winning. It's just they want a winning product, and that's just the end of it. And I just don't see how that's a smart move as an owner in the long term. As far as getting butts in the seats, and even I don't even know if they're even trying to put out a winning product out there.
Well, you look at the team as a whole, the San Diego Chargers. I mean, they have Phillip Rivers. He's 36 years old. I think he's on his 9th kid or something like that. Just a joke, but really, he has a lot of kids out there, so he may play a couple years. But then after that, you have a lot of uncertainty. So defensively, they think they're where they're at. They're building. The Rams, I don't know what they're doing. They drafted Jared Goff. That was a mistake, obviously. They didn't put him in there to start because they didn't think he was ready because the coach wanted to save his job. So they have a lot of things that they have to figure out. But you're exactly right, Rick. It's a transient state. It's just like Florida. If the Bucs aren't winning, then you won't see a lot of people show up for that. If the Rays aren't winning, you won't show up for that. Even if they're not winning, even if they are winning, they won't show up for that. So those are tough places because you have so many things to do. I'm just telling the truth here, guys. There's a lot of uncertainty with both of these teams, and then with the Oakland Raiders going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. It's disappointing because both of those cities really do care about their teams, but in the long run, it's about the mucho dinero, and the Chargers are willing to play in a soccer stadium that has 30,000 because they believe at the end of the tunnel there that they're going to be able to get a stadium much like the LA Rams are looking at, much like the Dallas Cowboys are going to bring in that revenue. So they'll take the loss for a couple years and eventually move into a new stadium.
And how much of a loss is it going to be? Because they're still going to sell the luxury seats.
Sure.
So they're going to, and the luxury seats is where the money comes in. So the owner's going to be fine, and so I'm not even worried about that. What's And Gene, you brought this up about Mike Smith. I don't think that had anything to do with it. Again, Pete, you said it. I mean, it's a great move by the Bucs because think about this. Gerald McCoy gets a defensive coordinator for 2 years in a row. Levante David gets a defensive coordinator for 2 years in a row. You know, that could be huge for their continued development. And I still believe that we have not seen the best of Gerald McCoy. We haven't seen the best of Levante David. Matter of fact, and I'll say it, I thought he took a step back this year. He was solid, but he wasn't at that level that he's played in previous seasons. And then the kids who did step up, the Quan Alexanders, the Vernon Hargreaves, Noah Spence, another year in the system, I think is going to help that defense to improve even more than they did as the season progressed this year. I think that was huge. I think it was key. And once he didn't get that Jacksonville job, because I think that's really the only job that he wanted. Once he didn't get that job, I think it was like the Bucs said, "Hey, let's do it now." The Glazers, I tell you, I'll give the Glazers this. The Glazers are, I think they listen to the fans and media a little bit too much. But I tell you, when they get something in their heads and they get someone they like, they'll do anything to keep them. And I think they did a great job in keeping Mike Smith.
Yeah, most definitely.
And it's an excellent point, Rick, that you bring up, because when you make the point of, well, the quarterback has to have continuity with Dirk Cutter as an offensive coordinator, when you say that a quarterback is hindered, his development is hindered because you don't have that continuity with the offensive staff, you could say the same thing defensively. I mean, how many defensive coordinators has Gerald McCoy and Levante David been under? I mean, it's tough to count. Raheem Morris, Greg Schiano, Lovie Smith, and now you have Mike Smith. So it's nice, again, to keep it there. And to say that these players are not affected by different defensive systems, that's naive. Of course they are.
Because every coach has their nuances. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And the nice thing about this is you have your core players, and now you can bring in free agents or whoever you need to fill certain spots. Then other spots you can just you can get through the draft. So I think the Bucs are in a position to where after free agency and you look at free agency and who they bring in, they will be able to grab the best player on the board, or they're getting close to being able to do that. And I think that's what's important, to be able to, for a team to be able to grab the best player on the board.
Right. And if I'm going to put something in the Glazers' head, like Rick said, hey, Dalvin Cook. We need Dalvin Cook, okay? We need to repeat history from 20 years ago. We need to draft that running back out of Florida State. Guys, the first year he was here, he made the playoffs. Come on, man. Dalvin Cook, you hear me, Glazers?
Man, me and you have had this conversation, man. There are so many other things that Tampa needs, man. You look at how hamstrung they were with just one wide receiver. I mean, that right there was just a backbreaker. And a healthy Vincent Jackson could do nothing but help this team, regardless of whether he's on the decline or not. I'm not taking anything away from Humphreys or Shepard or anybody else that was on the other side of the ball from Mike Evans, but it's just not the same. You look at what Atlanta did, bringing in Mohamed Sanu, and how much that helped their offense overall. When Mohamed Sanu is healthy, he can definitely be productive.
I got to ask Rick this, because you're a big-time Redskins fan. We know about that. Deshaun Jackson, is that a candidate for the Buccaneers that they would look at? Because first, he's 29 years old. He's been somewhat productive. Okay, it seems like he has something in the tank, and he would offer that speed. Well, then
Stop
it. Chance here
it.
to sell you on it.
No.
Okay, so that's my answer. No.
But on the real though, I mean, Deshaun might want to leave, and Now think about this, and I'm glad you brought the wide receivers up because I think the Bucs will look when free agency starts, and I know Gene wants to touch on free agency. Let's just jump right into it.
Mm-hmm.
When free agency starts, I think they're going to look at wide receiver, and so
sure.
do you? My question to you guys: do you bring back Vincent Jackson? Or do you go after a Deshaun Jackson? What do
I
you
would
do?
be very leery with the injuries that he's had over the past 2 seasons. And when he was healthy early on in the season, I don't know if he was 100% at that time, but I just don't feel like he was as productive as bringing somebody else in.
Quarterback. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm a little bitter. That's why I'm not wearing my Skins hat today. I'm still bitter.
Just a little.
Over a dude who throws for all these yards, but can't do it in the clutch. I'm a little.
Yeah,
I'm a
you
little
like
skeptical.
that? You like that?
Nah. Oh, I almost cursed. I almost dropped.
That's okay.
No. I almost dropped the F-bomb on this one. I'm not doing that. No. Because if I get,
It's a podcast.
I know it's a podcast, but if I do it here, then y'all go piss me off on Saturday, and it's gonna come out again. No, I have to contain myself all the way through. But no,
you know,
I was just wondering though. I mean, Vincent Jackson, look, 33, 34 years old. Injuries the last 2 years that's kept him out. What he made? What he made? 55 mil. He fulfilled his 5-year 55.5555555. A lot of five.
I'm looking to upgrade
contract.
the position, to be honest.
So if you upgrade it, then
I mean,
when
that's where you look at free agency. I look at free agency first and see who's available. And it's nothing against Vincent Jackson. It's just that
great guy.
Over the past years, and football is a business. Over the past 2 years, he hasn't been able to help this team to improve. He's been injured, which is not – maybe he's helping on the sidelines or behind the scenes, something that us as fans don't see. But as far as on the field, we need somebody because we can't go through, or Tampa cannot go through a third season with somebody who's injured on that side of the ball. That puts us in a position where we're struggling, and you limit the options for your young quarterback, Jameis Winston.
V-Jax, I'll tell you this. I was impressed because I saw him grow through his years in Tampa. From year 1 to year 5 before he got injured, and I know he got injured early, but his growth was remarkable from everything we heard in San Diego to him accepting a leadership role and then embracing it when a Mike Evans came aboard.
Sure.
I thought that was big for him, and he did a lot for this franchise.
Yeah, especially off the field.
But so did Derek Brooks. But so did Warwick Dunn. And so it is a business. And so, if you can sign Vincent, if Vincent would take less than what he made this year, hey, maybe so. Maybe you can do both.
Is he a number 2 or a number 3 receiver?
Oh, he's definitely – no, I think – well, we know who's number 1, definitely. Number 2 – That wasn't I think he's still the second best receiver on that team. I do. Adam Humphries made improvements, but he's –
You're talking current roster. You're not talking about – we haven't even gotten to free agency. No. You're talking current roster.
Yeah, I'm talking current roster.
Okay. Yeah, then you're absolutely right. I would take him as my number 2. I don't see anybody that's competing against him on this team, to be very honest.
I don't either. I really don't. I mean, Shepard had a good year.
Mhm.
Adam Humphries had a good year. And compared to what Shep did before, Shep had a great year. But
Yeah.
but still, he's no more than a 3. a 4 at,
Yeah.
he can make good catches every now and then, but
It's not consistent.
And whether that's not, he's not yet. And he's still growing into the position as well. So,
Absolutely.
no, if I could get Vince back for a good price, oh heck yeah. But if not,
I can't argue with that logic either.
We move on and we thank him for his dedication and his contributions to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the growth. And we wish him well in his future endeavors, because
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to claim a whole lot in free agency. I'm
right.
I keep it real. I keep it 100. I just don't see it.
Now, when we talk about you keeping it 100, I'm going to ask you about the tight end position next. We're going to get all the way around the team here.
Yes.
But, I want to touch on tight end. And Cameron Brate had an amazing season before he got injured.
Well, can I answer this question really quick about the wide receiver?
Please. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I got to say this. You're exactly right, Rick. If you can keep Vincent Jackson at a reduced rate, you keep him. But if not, you cut your ties. And what you do is you go out in free agency, you get the best wide receiver that's on the market. And most of those guys that are in free agency are not 26 years old. And I know what everybody's saying, Alshon Jeffrey is going to cost you some money. But if you look at websites like Sporadic, they have him at $11, $12 million. To me, you would pick him up. Is he a deep threat? Well, he ran a 4.4. When he's healthy with the Chicago Bears, highly productive. You put him on the other side. You convince him that he doesn't have to be your number one wide receiver because you already have one of those. You have Jameis Winston. You have an upcoming offense. Come to Tampa Bay. We have the third most money in free agency, and that's the guy I would sign. And if you think about it, guys, when you sign Vincent Jackson, how old was he? 28, 29 years old? He was a productive receiver with the San Diego Chargers, but there were questions about him. How did that work out? History, I get that. But you don't have many 26-year-old wide receivers that's built like Alshon Jeffrey. That would be my guy that I would give the first call to in free agency. Why screw around? We're talking about guys off the street. We're talking about Russell Shepard, who's a nice 4th or 5th wide receiver. He did a good job as a special teamer. But is he going to be a number 2 wide receiver? We're talking about Vincent Jackson. Is he going to come back from health issues? The last couple of years, he really hasn't. I say you got to get guys around Winston. You got to give this offense a chance to take the pressure off of Mike Evans. Go after Alshon Jeffrey. That's my first call.
Then if you do that, then this is what you have to do. You've been after Jeffrey since the middle of the season, since before the trade deadline. But if you do that, then what you have to do is re-sign Mike Evans now. You re-sign Mike. You extend him now and give him a new contract, and then you bring in Alshon under him, because there's no way Alshon Jeffrey or any other receiver should be making more than Mike Evans this coming year. No way, no how. So if you do go the free agent route and you find a number 2, whoever that number 2 is, you better re-sign, or you better extend, tear up that rookie contract and give 13 what he's due. And he proved this year that he is worth that number 7 spot, and he is worth top five money. He's worth it.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with that. I think
the other receivers that were drafted around him, and I don't see a problem with the Bucs extending him. That I would definitely. That's one contract that I would get done as soon as possible. I don't even want him even sniffing free agency, to be honest.
But why I say that though is that you make it easier, and you define the roles right then. Because if you bring in Alshon at say 11 mil or 10 mil, whatever, 8 mil, and Mike is still on his rookie deal, Mike is going to be feeling some kind of way. It's human nature,
Right.
because Mike is the man. He's proven that he's the man. So you define the roles right then, and whoever you bring in knows it. Okay, Mike is the man. So let's and Mike has grown. I saw his growth this year as well. And I don't know if it was marriage. I don't know if it was he said it. Marriage has something to do with it. He's matured a lot off the field as well as on the field. And I think he's proven that he's worth number one money. And top five money, actually.
And this is what Shawn says on the Sports Web when we talk about this. We talked about this off air and we get in these big time debates. You're going to have to re-sign Mike Evans. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that. Look what Jason Light has done the last couple of years. I mean, again, this is a team has the third largest money in free agency. So I have trust that he'll get this done. But you're exactly right. Mike Evans with the career year definitely played better this year, grew up. Very consistent, so you have to sign him. And what I will tell Alshon Jeffrey is, and people will say, well, Alshon Jeffrey can go to the Cleveland Browns, he can go to the LA Rams, he can go to another team, maybe like the Tennessee Titans. Well, you can get paid $18, $19 million. You can get overpaid by a bad team and stink. But you could take, 10, 11, 12 million, and you get to come down here and play with Jameis Winston and play with Mike Evans, and you actually have a chance to win a Super Bowl eventually. So, again, and all his guys got to go into that room, try to sell Alshon Jeffrey, but I know Jeffrey's a smart guy. I know he understands the way the NFL is going. You get a chance to play with Mike Evans and Jameis Winston, chance to come down to Florida with no sales tax, sign me on the dotted line. What are we talking about?
That's right, man. That's a great point. And if it's not him, maybe it's Pryor. You just don't know who it's going to be. But
I mean, look, the Cleveland Browns have the most money in free agency, and Pryor may be a home guy, and the Browns may overpay for him because his value. And that's the thing people don't understand. It seems like it's the value, but this is the market. The market says it's 10, 12, $14 million. That guy's going to get paid any way it goes, wherever he goes. I don't think anybody's going to take a discount. But at the end of the day, your worth to that team. That team is going to pay you $14 to $16 million like the Browns may because they believe Pryor is a piece. Happen. And again, there's options out there. There's a guy like Kenny Stills who's 24 years old with the Miami Dolphins, played better in that offense. Is he a number 2, number 3 wide receiver? You don't know. You don't know about Kamir Aiken, but what you do know about Jeffrey is when he's healthy, and that can be a big if the last couple years, he's highly productive. He's got 4.4 speed. Would be a matchup nightmare for this for opposing defenses against this Buccaneer offense.
And he will continue the history of the Duncaneers. So
that's it. I mean, he's like a Jason Light. He's like Vincent Jackson, except he's younger. You know what I'm saying? Like you get a prototypical wide receiver that Jason Light likes. I mean, it makes sense. And again, it's not like you don't have the money. You have the money. You can't die with that money. So you have to spend that money. So why not go out, re-sign Mike Evans, go out and get Alshon Jeffrey, maybe get an impact defensive player, maybe sprinkle in a little Minnesota Viking offensive lineman in there, maybe an Andre Smith at right tackle or Matt Khalil, because I've been doing my research. Hey, and focus on the draft. I just made it easy for you. There you go, Glazers. You're welcome.
Hey, what about what about that lineman that you drafted? I mean, that you signed last free agency. What about Mr. J.R. Sweezy?
Well,
what does he come back? Does he? What's his status? What's going on?
I mean, to me, you look at it this way, okay? Joe Hawley's the free agent. Are you going to re-sign him? He's unrestricted. Did you like him the last year? I mean, I think Joe Hawley's a great guy, but if you watch the film, did you get that push up front? So here's what you do. To the center position. You see if J.R. Sweezy is healthy, you move him to the right guard position, which, by the way, is his natural fit, and then you address that need in free agency with the Andre Smith, or maybe you move Donovan Smith to the right tackle. you want to try to keep that continuity, but it's not like J.R. Sweezy hasn't played the right guard spot before. And it's not like Ali Marpet can't play the center position. So really,
whoa. How do we know that? We don't know.
True.
We haven't seen him play center.
We don't know that. You're right.
I've seen him snap the ball a couple of times to Jameis,
right.
or no, not even to Jameis. I've seen him snap the ball to Ryan Griffin, but we don't know if he can play center. And do you really want to stunt his growth right now? Because he had a darn good year at right guard. So
you're right. You're exactly right.
I don't know if I'm ready to do that to him yet. I don't know. I see your point.
So what are your thoughts on the center position then? I mean, what do you do with that center position? Because
I like Joe.
What would you do?
Because he gave that team that they needed.
Meanness. Yeah.
He gave them that grit. He gave them what Logan Mankins, him and Logan were just beasts. And he gave the team that. And Ali fed off of that. And even Donovan fed off of that. You know, DeMar's not going to feed off of that because DeMar is a nice guy. And he's a great guy.
Yeah.
but
he's the Gerald McCoy on the other side of the ball.
For real. Honestly, I like that comparison. But Panfield, he fed off of that. They were mean. And you saw it. You worried if Holly would get penalties, 15-yard penalties, in players after the whistle. He's a mean SOB, and you know what?
So then,
I like it.
So basically, what you're saying that do you see any indeficiencies then with the offensive line? Is there anything that you could see where they could maybe any places they could upgrade? Then let me ask you that.
You know, you gave DeMar that good contract last year, but he did not live up to it this year. He had a down year. Right. Can he come back? You know, one thing that I do know about DeMar Dotson is he's always been a fighter. And I can't think of the phrase now, truth be told or whatever, I'm a DeMar Dotson fan because I like his story. He came from nothing. He worked his way. He battled his way. And I thought he deserved the contract at the time. I think you give him another year or at least half a season to say, okay, earn this money now. Yeah. And was he totally back from his injury? No, he wasn't. But he went out there anyway and tried to perform. But still, that's something you do have to keep an eye out on. You know, the rest of the line, they didn't do anything special, you know, because the running game wasn't special this year.
No.
And you can say anything you want to about Doug Martin and drugs or whatever. Doug Martin was getting hit as soon as he grabbed the ball got the ball from Jameis a lot of the time. So that's not on Doug Martin. That's on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So overall,
and you know, that's kind of where my line of questioning was going, because your offensive line and hopefully J.R. Sweezy coming back will, you know, as a run blocker, I'm hoping that will help the running game regardless of who's back there. I don't know who it's going to be. We don't know until, you know, the first game of the season, but you know, at this point, you know, you just want to make sure that your line, you have the best players that you could possibly get on that line. And that's what I was kind of asking. With what you've seen and what you have there, are these the same guys that we're going to see on in the first game of the regular season?
Maybe not. I think this training camp is going to be very competitive. I think you're going to see them bring in a couple of linemen. They like Beninock. They like Wester, who came in, and Wester came in and did a decent job in his only start. Beninock was a little further behind, but they still like those guys.
Right.
I think they like the entire line, but they're going to bring in guys, and if Sweezy is healthy, then he's going to be in the mix, and that's a good thing to have,
Yeah, most definitely.
And Cutter said this in his last press conference, and you guys know this: competition is good in every position to me, but quarterback.
Look at your punter. Look at the punt. Look at your kicker, Brian Anger. There was competition for that position, and he ended up winning that job. And you see what it worked out good. It didn't just get handed to one person. You had two people that were in there trying to win that job, and once they got it, it worked out good.
And it worked out good for Shum too.
Player that was available.
Where did Shum go? Where did he go? He was in the playoffs, wasn't he? Yeah. I thought I just saw him. I was just like, I just saw this guy somewhere. And so it worked out well for him eventually. But competition is good all around the board.
Yeah, and depth is good for this offensive line. Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
You're gonna need depth. I thought, the most consistent lineman, and you guys will laugh when I say this, to me, was Evan Smith. I thought Evan Smith came in and balled, whether it was at center, guard, wherever they put him, he just balled. And if he comes back, the depth there with him, Sweezy in the mix, man, the two rookies. Anybody that you're going to bring in, because they will bring in some guys. Trust on that.
Sure they will.
It's going to be – this line will be better next year because of what happens during the offseason.
Yeah, and the great thing, again, we talked about it before, you've got that consistency.
Sure.
You've got Dirk Cutter is still in the same place, and you have that core offensive line, and you can bring guys in, and everybody's familiar with each other to the point where you're not having to worry so much about gelling like you did last year, where you had totally different players that were coming in and never played with other players before. So that works out good as well.
And don't forget about George Warhop.
What were you gonna say?
Don't forget about George Warhop too, because that, as a line coach, the consistency, the same message. The guys who've been there will get that. The new guys will have to learn it and catch up, but that's key as well.
Yeah, and it may be a case of Caleb Beninock being like Kevin Panfil. It's taken him a couple years to develop, but eventually he'll develop into what they think he's going to be. And, Jason Light, it's interesting enough that he's drafted a lineman in every draft that he's been. So that if it's not in the first round, it may be in the second and the third round. People are so hung up on the Dallas Cowboys, and they say, well, you need a first rounder. Well, you don't reach for a pick. And then the other kid from Wisconsin, but he's already got a hip injury. So I wouldn't reach for that position. And honestly, I think the line was beat up last year. So they're really not as bad as a lot of people think they are. I think they're probably more 2015 than 2016. So look, anytime you can add depth and players in the draft and free agency, you're doing a good thing. So those decisions need to be made. I will say this with the running game. It was very disappointing. Rodgers is your leading rusher over Doug Martin. Was it injuries? Was it drugs? I don't know. But at one point, I like Doug Martin. They need to cut their ties at this point. You're going to miss some 3 games.
No.
You may need – I think you got to move on at this point.
No. After one bad year? No.
It's more than one bad year. I mean, he just gave him this guaranteed money. I think he let the organization down. I get it. He has a problem.
He did.
And you know what? If you ask yourself this, Rick and Gene, if you have Doug Martin and he's as good as he was in 2015, do you make the playoffs? I think you could. I think you definitely needed him in that Dallas game to be better. I think you needed him in that New Orleans game, and you didn't have him. You didn't have him all year long. He's getting up there in age. Go for it. He's already going to be suspended for the first 3 games.
He is.
I'm ready to move on. I look at it as maybe, go back, and a Bucs fan would know this, Eric Rhett situation.
Yeah.
He held out. He was never the same. He moved on. Doug Martin, maybe that's best for him. Maybe it's a change of scenery would be best for him at this point. I just think you got to get more explosive. And the running game, it's so predicated with this offense, is so much more important than to most teams. You got to get it right. And I think you just got to move on. And that's just my opinion. And the reports that Steve Dumick, he's been doing it for 25 years, by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There was no denial by Doug Martin. Yeah, and I know what you're saying, but I'll use a wrestling reference. In order to beat the man, you got to beat the man. Nobody's beat this guy, okay? I respect him saying this type of stuff. It just worries me. I just think, Doug Martin eventually will end up with another team, and it'll probably do well. But I just think at this point, you got to move on. You got to get a more consistent option, and you know what I think about the option.
Rick, your thoughts?
I think you bring him back. I think during training camp, you see what you have. You don't have to make a decision right away. You can. I don't think his contract becomes guaranteed until the first game of the season. I have to double check that, but that's what I think. So you make him battle during training camp for that job. And after everything he's been through this year, I think you will see a more determined Doug Martin. And yes, you won't have him for the first 3 games. But at the same time, this guy, when healthy, even with the line was as shaky with rookies last year, you saw what he did. You saw when he is healthy, he is one of the best running backs in this league, hands down. You don't give that away. You don't just let that go. It's not like he sabotaged this team. Again, and maybe it's just me, but when I saw Doug Martin get handoffs, he was getting hit and he had the dip and dodge. That's not on him. That's up front. That's so.
And I think
I understand what you guys are saying.
With him admitting that he has a problem, I think him being able to get his head clear, I think he's going to come back. I'm of the mind that he's going to come back and he's going to perform. I don't think it's wise to, and I said this to you, Peter. You know my opinion. I don't think it's wise to offload him yet. Give him a chance to see what he can do. That's a guy that helped Jameis Winston get those yards that he got because of a consistent running game. So he may still be able to produce. I think he can. I think it's an unfortunate event. And I think that, he's going to come back, as Rick said, more determined to really prove what he can do. Just like when Mike Evans had all those drops and everybody was calling for his head, I said that he would be fine the next year.
Sure.
And sure enough, he went back and he worked with Jameis and they got that taken care of. I think Doug Martin's of the same type of mindset that he's going to come back and he's going to prove that he belongs on this team.
I think he's getting to that age now. He's 28 years old. He's had a lot of carries. I don't want to take that chance. I know that he has a problem. I get that. But the consistency issue is a problem. The injury history is a problem, and it's been a problem. So if you do keep him, you're going to have to keep him at a reduced rate. Is Martin going to take that reduced rate? I'm not sure. So what's his trade value at this point? I'm not sure. So I would definitely look to draft somebody, a replacement. If you don't do it in the first round, at least second, third round, because there's a lot of NFL executives that believe that you can get a running back that's a dime a dozen. You look at the leading rushers, Jordan Howard. But I'm in the mindset of, why take the chance? Do that again. Why do that to yourself? If you have an opportunity to upgrade that position, go ahead and do it. If you want to keep Doug Martin around, fine. Again, competition is going to drive this team.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure if Doug Martin is going to take a reduced rate, and I'm not sure if the Buccaneers are going to offer it. I don't. Rick knows more than anybody else. He covers the team on a daily basis of what their mindset is. I just look at Dalvin Cook as being more of a fit for the Buccaneers. Not saying Martin's not.
And let me ask you this, Peter. Just out of curiosity, if you have two running backs, you have another running back that they bring into camp, and Doug Martin beats him out for the starting position, would you be okay with Doug Martin coming back in the 2017 season?
Sure, but I don't think he's going to beat out any running back, because first he's going to be suspended for the first 3 games, and that's huge. I mean, I think anybody's going to come in here, and if you're banking on a guy like Rodgers, who's really never carried in the NFL on a consistent basis, they want to re-sign him. I mean, you have Rodgers, you have Charles Sims. We saw what we got in those guys. Rodgers was productive, but he also got hurt. Charles Sims got hurt once again. And even when he was carrying the ball, he wasn't a guy that was very productive. So I just think this is more of a need. I'm not saying wide receiver isn't those needs in free agency. And if you don't, then again, maybe there's a trade back. Maybe you trade back for multiple picks to fill those needs at wide receiver and running back if it's that deep in this draft. I just think they got some big decisions, and it starts with offense. I'm not saying the defense is perfect, not by any means. But to me, offense has to be a priority in 2017 and free agency and then draft.
And Rick, would you agree with that?
No. I understand what Peter's saying. I do. But I think you can make do with your running game for the first 3 games, where Doug Martin can win his job back is doing off-season workouts if he's back, if he's out of treatment or whatever he's doing. But all-season workouts.
Coming into camp in shape.
And with a chip on his shoulder, just like he had in 15. I just don't think this is the time to unload him. While Dalvin Cook seems to be the hot button guy, what concerns me is this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ready for the Buccaneers to become Florida State South. And don't get me wrong, people. I'm not a Florida State hater, or I'm not a Florida fan or a Miami fan. So that has nothing to do with it. I just don't know if that's the right move. I don't, guys. There's something I like Dalvin.
You want players that are going to fit the system. And that's,
I just don't know.
Ultimately, that's what I come up with. You want players that are going to fit into the Buccaneers system.
And Jameis is going to be yelling for him, though. Jameis is
sure. And I think Winston coming out and saying that Cook is one of the best running backs he's ever played with, and then the fact of, and look, that's not saying much because, of course, he played with this guy. But you look at the statistics on paper. You look at what he's done with the Florida State Seminoles. 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, can catch the ball. He has speed. He has that explosive element that the Buccaneers haven't had in a long time at running back. I mean, guys, it's probably been work done the last time they had that explosive, impactful player. And you look at college tape, he really doesn't need a big-time hole. It's a little sliver, and he's gone. So I think it would be nice to add that impactful player, that game breaker, much like the Dallas Cowboys. And I get it. I know what everybody's saying. The Dallas Cowboys have this big line, but there's sometimes when you add a player, it makes that line, it's going to make him line better. I don't think he needs that big time hole. I think he needs a little crease, and then he's gone. And again, we'll see what happens at this point. That's where I think they should go. And I think Cook would fit this offense because he can do so many things, and you kind of eliminate all the other running backs that you have because they do something well. Jacquizz Rodgers, He's got the aspect of catching the ball. He can run between the tackles somewhat. Charles Sims can catch the ball, can't really run between the tackles. Doug Martin, you don't know what to think. When he's healthy, he can kind of do both of those things. But Dalvin Cook, to me, is probably what you need on this team because all those running backs combined, Dalvin Cook is better than all of them.
Well, there you go. And you know what? We're going to look back on this. We're going to look back on this particular podcast. And, at the end of the season next year, I'm going to say, hey, man, Peter was right. Or he was wrong.
And I'll tell you right now, there is talk that Cook could slip because the NFL believes, once again, that you can draft a running back in the second, third, fourth round. And if there's a possibility that he would slip to a certain point of, I don't know, maybe the Arizona Cardinals, I think they pick at 11 or 12. Is there a possibility that Jason Light would call him and possibly trade up if you address those needs in free agency at wide receiver? Why not? I mean, how much does it take you to get up to get Doug Martin? And who's a free agent right now for the Buccaneers as a backup quarterback that you may get a compensatory pick for? Mike Glennon. So if you get maybe a third or fourth or fifth round pick, there you go, right there. There's your move up piece.
Yeah. So you know what? We're going to remember this. I'm actually bookmarking this particular podcast, and we'll talk about this after the draft. We'll be discussing this here. Again, we don't know what's going to happen with free agency and then going into the draft. That's always a possibility that they could move up and grab a running back if they feel like that is a position that genuinely needs to be addressed. Another position I have to ask you about, and I know you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but the tight end position. Do you feel like this is a position that can be upgraded, or are you happy with what Cameron Brate has brought to this team, and he's the guy for the Bucs moving forward? And I'm going to start with you, Pete. When I start with you on that question.
Yeah, I like Cameron Brate. I think he's done a lot of great things. Having 8 touchdowns this year, really stepping up and being a consistent option for Winston. But would I say if the Buccaneers drafted say an O.J. Howard, who's a 5-year starter with the Alabama Crimson Tide, who's got the speed, who can block, would that be a bad pick? No, not at all. Because again, it's about adding weapons to this offense. So if Howard would be on the board or another tight end, say in the third round, like a Jake Butt, because he's coming off an ACL injury, I would absolutely love to add something to it. Cameron Brate is a very nice tight end, but the fact of the matter is he's not a consistent blocker. He's a guy that can go out and catch the balls. Brandon Myers, is he a guy you're going to depend on? Is Luke Stalker? He doesn't seem like he can ever stay healthy, but he's an important piece because of his blocking. So once again, to answer your question, am I happy with Cameron Brate? Yes, but could you add to that position with the O.J. Howard or Jake Butt? Absolutely, you could.
All right. Rick Brown.
I'm glad you brought up Cameron Brate because in my article in FanRagSports.com yesterday, I said that Cameron Brate was the Buccaneers' most improved player. Having said that, though, I hate agreeing with Pete this much, but you can bring in another guy. And that's okay because Brandon Myers is getting older. Luke Stalker, even though to me he's the best blocking tight end that you have on that team.
Sure.
He plays half the season, or 3/4 of the season, or whatever. Alan Cross isn't there yet. Still learning the nuances of playing on the line there. So, you mentioned O.J. Howard, and that's a nice pipe dream, but he'll be gone by the time the Bucs think about a tight end.
Wow.
But yeah, you can upgrade that position.
Sure.
And that's okay. But Cameron Brate is your number one. He is your pass catcher. And it's okay that he is improving as a blocker, that he isn't there yet because I don't know if Greg Olsen is the best blocker. I don't know if Travis Kelce is the best blocker. Hell, I don't know if Gronk is the best blocker. But
no,
they make an impact. They are impactful players. And Cam was impactful for the Buccaneers this year, tying for the franchise league time for the league in touchdowns this year with 8. So,
another question I have to ask you guys: are there any other positions? I know we talked about wide receiver, we talked about running back, and we talked about the tight end position. Can you think of any other positions on this team where the Bucs would be looking to upgrade what they currently have?
I think they're going to look at safety. I like what Keith Tandy did in coming in. You know, guys, what Keith Tandy did his last 4 games, he didn't come off the field. It was Conti and Bradley McDougald rotating, and Conti didn't come off the field. This is a guy who was a special teams guy like Shep, special teams only, getting in the beginning of the season. He averaged, I wrote a story on him last week or 2 weeks ago. He was averaging like 7 plays, 7 snaps on defense. And by the end of the season, he wasn't coming off the field. That wasn't because of injury. That was because of what he was doing. Right. And I like that. So
he showed good ball skills.
He did. He always has. That's the cornerback in him. So he was a cornerback. He played corner at West Virginia.
At West Virginia, right?
Yep. So I think he deserves a contract extension, I believe, which I wrote about. Yeah. So I think another safety wouldn't hurt, although they have high expectations from Ryan Smith. I would like to see his growth in the offseason to see if he can compete for a rotational role, sort of like what Tandy did, and just to see what he has, because he has the speed. But I'm sorry, and I'm wrong, because they already said that they're moving him to cornerback. So safety, yes. I think that's a spot you look at.
Yeah, and for me, it's going to be kick returner. I'm sorry, Peter, I didn't cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I think, Smith, you're exactly right. With him moving from the safety position to cornerback, you're going to have to address that position. And look, if you strike out on Jeffrey, if you strike out on some of these offensive free agents, would I hate the fact if you went after Eric Berry? Absolutely not. I wouldn't hate that, because he's a playmaker. You know, you got to have playmakers on this team, and you're exactly right. If Keith Tandy doesn't start for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there should be an investigation. Watch the all-22 tape. The guy is constantly around the ball. Maybe he's not the fastest. Maybe he's not the best tackler, but he has an instinctive quality about him. He jumps routes. He nearly jumped the route again on Drew Brees in the second game. Just missed it. But you know what? He's got that ability. He believes in the system. He's much better than Chris Conti. So it's Tandy, and if you can upgrade and you don't re-sign Bradley McDougald because he is a free agent, I know they like him, but let's say they don't, and you get at Eric Berry, I mean, how would you hate that? And let's look at the draft. You know, the possibilities. Jabril Peppers, he could be slipping down because of his size. Maybe he slips down to 19. Would I hate it? I don't know if I would hate it. I don't think I would hate it at all if you drafted him. Maybe Jamal Adams out of LSU, who Quan Alexander seems to think highly of because he's a hard hitter and he's instinctive. So there's definitely a position on this team you could address that definitely could be safety.
Yeah. For me, I think the biggest hole that I see is kick return, punt return. There just is nobody that's been able to do anything. I'm sorry, what we've seen this year on the punt side of the ball with Anger kicking the ball, he's been doing well, but just the return game has just not been what it should be. It's not even been close to what it should be. Sure. I know you're probably going to disagree with me on this, but I don't know that we've seen anybody on this team that's been able to step up and to really do anything. What do you do? Do you find that second receiver and then you put Humphreys full-time back there, or what do you do?
See, I like Humphreys as a punt returner. I like, because he is quick, and as a punt returner, if you can make that first man miss, you might be able to go the distance. And I think we saw that
we
in
saw
the
that in
preseason.
preseason.
Yeah. So I like him as a punt returner. And I don't think he got the chances this year that he got in 15 even. Kick returner, well, I can't argue with you. They struggled. I mean, Josh had some bad breaks. Ryan Smith was tentative early on.
Right.
And you're only going to get 1 or 2 a game.
Right.
You know, so is that enough to determine if these guys can really do it? I don't know. I don't know. You see the speed, you like the speed, you see things in practice that you like, but it's no there the Buccaneers don't have a guy like Patterson,
Ted Ginn,
or Gid, or a Tyreek Hill, who's when you have to think twice about kicking it their way. You know, they don't have that yet. Mm-hmm. Do they have it on the team? I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't.
And again, I know that they're going to have people competing for this job. Who do you bring in? Who's out there that you would bring in? Go ahead, Peter.
Consequently, Ted Ginn is a free agent. So let's say you strike out on Jeffrey and you don't get the wide receiver you want. Do you bring in Ted Ginn as a number 2 wide receiver and have him be your kick returner? It's definitely a possibility. Or how about I play your game? How about we keep Doug Martin? We run with Rodgers for the first 3 games, and you draft what? Christian McCaffrey out of Stanford, a multi-purpose back, and he also gives you a kick returner and punt returner. What's wrong with that?
There you go. And now you're thinking like Jason Light now. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but most of the players that have been drafted are guys that are multifaceted guys. They don't just play one position. Right. They play in several different positions. And that he drafts those guys that have it from the neck up, or he tries to. And I think he's done a pretty decent job.
Rick, I want to get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on Kenny Mixon as a running back? I mean, I know the situation happened and it would be a lot of PR backlash for the Buccaneers, but as a draft prospect, have you looked at him? Do you think he would be worth, would he warrant a late round selection? And would the Buccaneers be interested in a guy like that?
Oklahoma issues, domestic violence. Can you call it domestic violence or just violence? I mean, it's not a laughing manner, and I wasn't trying to be funny there.
Oh no, you're exactly right. I don't know why they call it that.
I don't know. If late round, perhaps. Mm-hmm. You know what? I think he's. This happened a couple of years ago.
Right.
And a young man has paid his dues. And I've said this about Michael Vick. Right. And I know it's 2 different things. But when someone pays their dues and hasn't gotten into trouble again in the same situation.
Like a Jameis Winston.
Why not? Why not take a shot?
Right.
Ben Roethlisberger, and I know this is different, but he had 2 major accusations against him. One was dropped, one was settled. And he seems to have rehabbed very well, although Sports Illustrated did a very interesting piece on him this week that was pretty good.
Really?
So, yeah, it was darn good. I would say, why not give him a shot? I have no problems giving people second chances.
I think some team is going to give him a shot. I can see him going to New England.
Yeah.
Just off the top of my head is just a team that you think about. But yeah, that's it's one of those things that I guess you walk a fine line because you want to be that team that, you know, you don't want any bad or negative press there. I mean, we've had, God knows, from MRSA to Adderall to everything else here. And, you know, Tampa, that's one thing that Tampa doesn't need is bad press. So, you know, and I think that, you know,
Right.
Jason Licht does a good job with the vetting process. I like what he did with Tyrann Mathieu while he was in Arizona. He was a big part of the vetting process with the Honey Badger, and they brought him in.
Sure.
And this guy is a model citizen here in Phoenix. So I do know that it is possible for guys to turn their lives around. And, you know, who knows? You know, it may be worth a gamble.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe a Marlon Mack from USF, maybe a little local flavor. Because again, you know, if you look at what the NFL executives and GMs say out there, you can get a running back for a dime a dozen. So maybe that's a guy the Buccaneers look at. But I think they have to address that position, and it'll be interesting to see how they do it.
Yeah,
you know,
it
may not be who we think it is. It may not be Cook. It may not be McCaffrey. It may be somebody that Dirk Cutter and Jason Licht have in mind. But the great thing about this whole deal, guys, is that we actually trust these people because they've done a hell of a job. And they've gotten guys that you're exactly right, Gene. They are versatile and they can play different positions. And that's good to have on your team. It really is.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's past 9. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, Rick.
No. I was fine. No. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
Come on, man, on fire. What do you got to say there? Come on.
Come on, bring it out. Come on.
No. You were saying you trust Jason Licht and what he's done, and he's done a good job, so far. You know, I'm not ready to crown him the Ozzie Newsome or the I'm not ready to crown him the definitely I'm not, because I think a lot of us jumped to, after that 10-6 year, we jumped on Mark Dominique's bandwagon real quick, and so I'm a little more cautious now after that. But I like Jason and what he's done so far, and this
Fair
will
enough.
be this will be a very interesting. This is going to be a very interesting off season, starting with and we're jumping to April, May, but starting in March, starting. Who are they going to re-sign? Who are they going to extend?
Yeah.
And then free agency. They hit on Grimes.
Sure.
They hit on Ayers. Great moves. You have to continue to build on that.
Yeah, most definitely.
To get this franchise where you want it to be.
Guys, I got a question for you. In free agency, you have JPP, who's the guy that's probably not going to take a 1-year contract. You have Dontario Poe. Would that be a need because you're going to have William Golston as a free agent? He's not really a pass rusher, but you have an opportunity to get a JPP. You have an opportunity to get a Poe. Would you hate that move if the Buccaneers address the defensive line?
I'm sure they're going to be asking an arm and a leg. I don't know.
I want William Golston back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. William Golston has proved his worth with this team. Is he the pass rusher? No, but he's that run stopper. He's that guy. When he was out, teams started running the ball on the Buccaneers. and I'm sorry, I want Golston back.
And keep in mind too, Jacque Smith it will be back from injury. I would imagine as well.
Sure.
Yeah. Hopefully. And why I say hopefully is because a lot of guys do come back,
but they're not the same.
Yeah, I mean Murph, and we. What are we gonna do? What are the Bucs? What are y'all gonna do with Murph?
Yeah,
I mean, I still think it takes a year and a half to 2 years to come back from serious knee injuries.
Yeah, we saw that with Darrelle Revis when he was here in Tampa, and he had just come off that injury. He was nowhere near 100%.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't at all. You're exactly right. And you're going to have some major decisions to make. You're exactly right. You talk about Vincent Jackson. He just went through another injury. So who knows if he was ever going to be back. Lewis Murphy. So those are two wide receivers. And you bring up Golston. You're exactly right, Rick. He may not be the pass rusher that you want, but he's definitely a run stopper. And Mark Ingram called, and he's still running for over 100 yards against this Buccaneer defense. And it's because Golston wasn't playing in that game. I mean, come on. You got to sign this guy. The problem is that the market states that Golston or a team out there that's desperate, or the LA Rams or a team out there that's willing to overpay. I don't know if you can overpay for Golston because, again, he is a run stopper. But if it's a good value and kind of what he means to your team, I don't have no problem with bringing him back because you developed the guy, you drafted the guy, you developed the guy, and you let him go out there, and you hope he doesn't turn into Michael Bennett.
You got to think about the running backs that are in this division, and you got to see him twice. You got to see Freeman twice from Atlanta. There are some good running backs in this division, and it would be good to have somebody who is a run stopper, as you were talking about.
He wants to be back.
Right. Yeah.
He wants to come back. I talked to him, and he was like, I want to come back. I do.
Sure.
And I believe him. And if the Bucs give him a fair offer, I think he signs. If it's fair. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying break the bank but don't Michael Bennett him.
Right.
Don't Michael Bennett him.
Because he started on that.
So that's what I hope. That's what I hope.
I think Michael Bennett, when he signed with the Seattle Seahawks, when he left the Buccaneers, he only signed for like a 1-year contract, and I think it was like for $5 million. So, I mean, I'm not comparing those two, but what you hope for is now you have Mike Smith in here. You have all these defensive pieces. You want to keep them together because we talk about consistency and continuity. And Golston is one of those pieces that on that left side does so well against the running game. So you definitely don't want to get rid of him and have him go to another team and excel. Keep him in-house. Let's stop getting rid of all these players.
Yeah, and he's going to improve. I believe he's going to continue to improve as a pass rusher. He may never be that double-digit sack guy, but there's going to be a season or two that he's going to – there's going to be seasons where he's going to get you 5 to 6 sacks a year. And hey, look at the Bucs this year when it comes to any other year minus Simeon. After the top 2 guys, where are you exactly. when it comes to sacks? So I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, guys,
I think you're exactly right.
It's been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate all your input. I mean,
we're not ready to go, Gene. We're not ready to go.
I'm not ready to go. I'm still ready to talk playoffs. Are we going to talk playoffs?
Playoffs. So
thanks, Gene.
One more
we
question
appreciate
for you guys before we jump off here. Do you think the Bucs are putting themselves in a position to go to the playoffs in 2017? Do you think fans would be wrong for setting their expectations at going to the playoffs? And Rick, I'm going to start with you.
No, I think that would be fair. Because you've seen this team grow in each of the last 2 years. 2 years ago, they were 6-6 and on the cusp of making a move. This year, they were 8-5 and in control of their own destiny. Now that they've gone through this, I think they know what to expect. I think this experience will help them or the core group down the road. I think it's a natural assumption to think that the Buccaneers should be better and should contend again for a playoff spot. And why I say contend again, because the NFC is still tough. Because look, Carolina lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games by 3 points or less this year. New Orleans is New Orleans. Anytime Breeze is there, they have a shot. Atlanta, we see what they did this year. You go to other divisions, Dallas and the Giants. We're not going to talk about my squad because you never know how they're going to be. You saw how Minnesota started off. You saw Detroit, how they made the playoffs. Green Bay's Green Bay. Then you still have Arizona, Seattle. Will San Francisco be better? Who knows? But what I'm saying is the NFC is still like this. It's a lot of teams there that are going to be battling for those 3, 4, 5, 6 spots. The Buccaneers should be one of them again next year, and I expect them to make a bigger push than they did this year. Hey, one more thing before I stop. Check this out, guys. This is how close the Bucs were to making the playoffs. 9-7 this year. If they beat New Orleans and not Carolina, they're in the playoffs. Crazy. Think about that. If those last 2 games, if they swap victories or victory defeat, they're in the playoffs.
It's crazy.
Strength of schedule, points. That's how close they were this year to snapping a 9-year playoff drought. So yes, I expect them to contend and to be back in the running again next year.
Yeah, and with the signing of Mike Smith, it really shows that they're trending in the right direction. And just like we've been talking about all night, and we've been talking about since last year, how important consistency is, and I think we'll continue to see that. Now, if Jason Light has a good free agency and a good draft, are you on the light train or are you on a night train?
I'm not on any, as a reporter,
this is not reporter Rick.
I am not on any train. I just observe and I report what I see. If he has another good year, then you might have to say he's trending upward.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's good for you. I'll take that as good. That's a positive. That's thumbs up. All right, I can deal with that. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on. Peter, tell everybody about your show on Saturday and anything else you got going on.
Well, I just want to say this. I want to answer your question from the guy that was crazy at the beginning of the year that said they would have 10 wins. It was only 1 win off. Buccaneer fans should be frothing at the mouth. This team should be a playoff team. The 3rd year of Winston's development. And if you have a great free agency and draft, you should expect nothing less, Buccaneer fans, than this team to be a playoff contending team, and maybe better than that if they do it right. And of course, if you want to tune into the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons, it's called the Sports Web, the evolution of sports talk radio. We give you your own walk-up music. We let you call in twice, and we don't hang up on you like those other sports talk shows do in the Tampa Bay area. Saturday afternoons from 3 to 5 on the Tan Talk Radio Network with yours truly, Peter Blake, along with Shawn the Sports Don, and of course, man on fire himself, Mr. Buzz, in the building, Rick Brown.
Hey, Gene, can I ask you guys one more question? Just real quick. How did Dirk Cutter do in his first year?
He exceeded my expectations.
Pete?
I had him at a 7-win team. He exceeded my expectations.
I think that he did well, but I think there were some times during the season that you could see he was a rookie coach. You're going back to the LA Rams game with the clock management. There was a couple of situations during this season where he showed that he was a rookie, and I think he's going to be better off for that. And even he said in his press conferences, as a play caller, he has to do a better job, and maybe he relinquishes that duty to Todd Monken next year. But the thing about Dirk Cutter that I like is that he's a straight shooter, BSU. And from this experience this year to next year, he's going to be better off for it. I think Dirk Cutter did a good job. He can be even better in 2017.
I thought there were some games where he made adjustments as well. We haven't seen that for a long time. Oh, go ahead.
No. I was about to plug a story that I'm writing tomorrow, where I'm grading Dirk Cutter's performance in 2000 as a Buccaneers head coach this year. So make sure you read FanRag.
Right. And for $2, can you kind of give us the ending of that story?
It was for $2. No.
Okay.
You got to read. Go to fanragsports.com and see. But I tell you this, he did not get a failing grade by me.
Yes.
I will say that.
That is amazing right there. That's the same as B+ in my book. So
B+, that's what I say too. B+ with all the situation,
B+,
all the injuries, everything. And to have this team at 9 wins and on the cusp of making the playoffs, I think he definitely deserves a B+. Yeah,
most definitely. All right, and Rick Brown, please tell everybody again how they can get a hold of you.
Yes. Please yell at me on Twitter at RickBrown91. I'm not going to promise you that I'll follow you, but if you talk to me, I'll talk to you back. And if the conversation is good, I may check you out a little bit. No, seriously, RickBrown91 on Twitter. Also, find me at fanragsports.com. Like I said, tomorrow's article is on my grading of Dirk Cutter's season this year as the Buccaneers head coach. So make sure you check that out.
All right.
And by the way,
guys, go ahead,
I gotta plug this guy because I gotta be his Don King here.
No,
by the way, this is the man that's been covering sports for over 20 years. This is a guy that spends his hard-earned time writing about around the NFL, about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the guy that predicted Vernon Hargreaves to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year, and this is also the guy that has a movie coming out pretty soon that makes Denzel Washington look like he's washed up. It's Mr. Buzz himself, the man on fire, freaking Brown. If you don't follow him on Twitter, who are you following? Hopefully it's not Meryl Streep because she doesn't like football and she doesn't like MMA because she doesn't think it's art. Rick Brown does, and that's why you should follow him. And that's my message for 2017.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Thank you, Pete.
Well, guys,
and I also picked Clemson over Alabama.
Oh yeah,
that's right. You did. And I picked Alabama, so what the hell do I know, right?
Yeah, I picked Clemson too, though, so I give myself a little credit. Pat myself on the back here.
I started to hate you. Yeah, pat yourself on the back like Sean the Sports Don does every Saturday. That guy's got the biggest fan in Tampa Bay. I'm serious.
Hey, Jay, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, no problem. And everybody, this has been a great offseason going into the offseason. This is very promising. Having a winning season makes all the difference in the world for fans. And, us as fans, we need to really appreciate this team. You see what happens with the San Diego Chargers, and you see what happens with the Oakland Raiders and even the Rams, teams that had loyal followers. They may not have had a lot of them, but they had loyal followers, and it didn't matter. The money was more important. So, we have a great team. We have a great organization. Any chance you can to really get out and go to a game, check out the game, or even go to some of the functions for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Always, take that time to check it out, man, because not every city in the country can have a football team. So those are my final thoughts. And guys, thank you so much. And I appreciate having you on. I want to get you guys on again after the draft so we can talk about everything that's happened after the dust is settled. And for me, it'll be probably a couple of weeks. I'll check in again and see if anything else is going on.
Sounds good, my friend.
I want to say something real quick here because I can't end this without getting your guys' playoff predictions here. Who do you like in these games and why?
Wow. Just off the top of my head, and I'm just going through it. I want to see Dallas and Atlanta play. I want to see that game.
Okay.
I want to, but I hope it's Green Bay. And I don't care who wins the other game.
I don't think without Jordy Nelson, I don't see Green Bay getting that far without Jordy Nelson.
No, I don't either.
Shoot, I'm telling you, they've won 7 straight. So on the other side, KC, I've seen stats. Andy Reid is either 16-3 or 19-3 or something like that, coming off of a bye week. The Steelers have won 8 straight games, though. I like the Steelers there, and I'm not giving Houston a chance. So that's who I like.
And you know what? I think great minds think alike, because I'm saying the same thing. I think it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys versus the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Falcons finally get over that hump of being a one-and-done team. They have the bye. I think they face the Dallas Cowboys, and you're exactly right. You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. By the way, why is Mike Tomlin keeping in Ben Roethlisberger when it's 33-14 and he's still throwing the ball? But even saying that, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, even in Kansas City, the Steelers win, and of course the Patriots probably win by 20 to 25 points. Brock Osweiler is horrible.
Yeah, he is. He's $75 million horrible. It's all wrinkled up. $75 million horrible.
And just think, Mike Lennon may get the same. That's an Osweiler.
Yeah, well, if they hide his game film, then he might get that kind of money. Who knows? But anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you, and we're gonna go ahead and jump off here.
All right, guys. Peace.
All right, see ya.